Welcome back, everybody, to Chalkboard Finances. In this part three, we're talking about investing in real estate, which is what I personally do. And in yesterday's video, I shared with you how to identify your buy box so that you can find specific properties to invest in whatever type of real estate you're looking to do. Well, you may be asking, how do I even find these properties once I've identified my buy box? So today I'm going to share with you different ways that you could use to find these properties. Now, the most common or the most first way that you would probably think of as far as buying real estate would be using a real estate agent. And obviously that is the most common way that people will sell their house is by using a realtor. And that realtor will list the house on what's called the MLS, or the multiple listing service. And it is a site where all the other agents will use to find the property for their buyer. So that would be one way you could use to find a property, is work with a real estate agent, and they would set you up on a search where you would basically just tell them what your parameters are. They would put all that criteria as to what your buy box guidelines are, and then they will search and find homes that meet only those requirements. And so that would be one way. However, even though I have family that are realtors, I personally have never actually used a realtor to buy my investment properties. So I'm going to share with you how I personally have bought all of our rental properties, and it hasn't been using a real estate agent. It hasn't been through the MLS even. So now there are other ways that you can look for houses. And these are some of the things that I've done in the past too. One way you can find properties is what's called driving for dollars. And in other words, you would go to the area that you have identified as your buy box, and you're basically just driving around the neighborhood, and you're looking for houses that look distressed, like they need work. Maybe the windows are boarded up, or maybe there's just overgrown vegetation in the yard, or maybe it just looks like it's not well taken care of. You would then find the address of that property, and you can find out who the owner is, sometimes just through tax records. So you'd search your county's tax assessor's website, and in most cases, you can find the address of the owner, whether that be the person who actually lives in the property as owner occupied, or sometimes if it's a rental property, they have a mailing address to where the owner lives. So that could be a way, and I've actually done this. I've written a letter to the owner, and I mentioned that I was interested in buying their property, and I mailed them a letter, and I've actually gotten people to respond. Now, I never actually did end up buying a house that way, but that's one possible way. However, that can take time and money to, especially if you're doing mass mailings. I mean, there are ways where you can buy lists of and mail out postcards, but it seems that everybody's doing that now. I mean, I get offers in the mail all the time just to buy our house, and if you're like me, you just throw those away. So that can be one downside to doing that, is just a lot of people are mailing. It's not as personal because you're just getting something in the mail. So again, that was one way I did it. I only did it maybe 2 or 3 times to different houses, but it can just be a fun way to do something to do, like to drive around the neighborhood. It just helps you get an idea of what's actually out there, what houses are look like, and it just, again, it gives you different perspective of looking for properties that you might be interested in buying. So that's one way of driving for dollars. Another way that you can find properties for sale is, and this is actually the way that I've bought all of my properties, and that is using wholesalers. So now, let's say that now a wholesaler are those companies that are probably mailing out these letters to you and where they're buying your house, saying we'll pay cash for your house or whatever. Those companies are the wholesale companies. They're basically then just taking your house and they're just flipping it and wholesaling it to another buyer, where they're not even, in most cases, probably not even doing anything to the house. They are just uh, putting the house back basically up for sale and just making a few $1,000 profit by basically doing nothing to the house. So they are assigning the contract to someone else. So there are ways that you can find out wholesale companies. You could just Google search, like enter in your city name and put like off market real estate or wholesale real estate. Another way that you could come across these wholesale companies is, I mentioned, Bigger Pockets, and there's a whole community of people on there. And I've found wholesale companies through Bigger Pockets. There are some real estate agents that deal specifically with wholesale properties, that are buying or selling properties that need work. And so there's realtors on Bigger Pockets that do something similar to that. Another way could be to get involved in your local REI club. It stands for like real estate. I don't know. I can't remember what it, but it's basically a club for real estate investors. And they have monthly meetings, and sometimes it's just a good way to connect with other people in the industry. Sometimes they bring in guests that share certain topics. So you could get involved in your local real estate club. I personally haven't ever done that, so I don't know all the ins and outs. Sometimes you have to pay a membership to join, or sometimes they have free meetings, like maybe for just new members for one time guest and everything like that. So that could be another way to connect with people. Now, the reason why I have personally only used wholesale companies to buy our rental properties is, I mentioned a while ago in the video about the pros and cons of real estate, and one of the things that I mentioned was how you can buy real estate under value. So in other words, you're getting basically a discount on the real estate property that you're buying. So when I've purchased these properties through these wholesale companies, they have already been undervalued than what they are really worth. So in other words, I'm buying the property at a discount, and when I buy it, it already has equity in it because the home is worth more than what I've bought it for. Now, if you're buying houses on the MLS using Realtor, that's probably a lot harder to do. I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible to find below market deals on the MLS, but it's less likely, in my opinion, for a couple reasons. One, most people that are selling on the MLS are have their house nice and it doesn't need work and it doesn't need fix up. And also, because you have realtors involved, there's commissions, so that increases the price a little bit on the sell side. And so now, not that you're paying a commission to use a realtor, because it doesn't cost you anything to use a realtor as a buyer. The seller pays all of the commissions when it comes time to selling a house and buying a house on the MLS. Now, I will say one thing about the wholesale companies, if you're buying through the wholesale side, is that in most cases, the wholesalers are not going to pay any of the closing costs. So you as the buyer have to pay all of the title fees, even the seller's side of the title fees. And the other aspect of wholesaling is when you buy a property through a wholesale company, you have to have money quickly. So because these wholesale companies, you're selling the houses in days. And now, when you find a wholesale offer online or through an email list that you get, you have to act quickly because those houses sometimes sell in minutes or hours. So that's why it's so important for you to identify what your buy box is and you know your numbers so that when you see an offer that or a house that meets your criteria, you know that that's something that will work so that you can act quickly. Now, where do you get your money from? Well, I can go that into more depth in another video, but basically you would have to have hard money to where you're borrowing money for the down payment, or I'm sorry, for the loan, and you're borrowing it from a hard money lender that can get loan that money to the wholesale company quickly. Now you are paying a higher interest rate, but it's for a very short period of time because they don't qualify you as the buyer in any way. They really just look at the property to make sure that it is valued at above the purchase price. And now you do have to put typically 20% down still, but that's just the way that I've bought these houses. And so I can go into more depth into that later in another video, but that's actually the way that I've purchased these properties is through wholesale companies, and that's the way that I've personally just chosen to do that. And the main reason, again, is because I'm able to buy these houses below market value, and in other words, I'm getting them on sale. I'm getting them at a discount. So that's how I choose to do it. You have to... it's not as much of a specific property because a lot of the properties that you get through these wholesale companies are just all over the place as far as location is concerned and price and whatnot. So it may be slower going and finding a specific property that that matches your buy box. But again, if you can get it though below value, then you just sometimes have to be patient and just wait for the right deal to come across. Whereas if you were on the MLS, you might have more availability of homes, but then you're typically buying them right at value. So your purchase price may be higher than as if you were buying through a wholesale company. So anyway, that's how I personally have bought properties and how I found these properties that we have as rentals, and it's only been through wholesale companies. So tomorrow, as we get into the next video, I'm going to share with you on how to run these numbers so that you can know how to actually find out whether or not it's a good deal. So stick with me, and hopefully we'll see you on the next video, and I will share with you how I run the numbers to determine whether or not I'm getting a good deal on everything. So thanks everybody. We'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.